The Yautja had hunted across 17 worlds. He'd claimed xenomorph queens, armored prey on ice planets, and once, just once, a rival hunter who challenged his honor. His trophy room spoke of centuries perfecting the art of the hunt. But he'd never seen trees like these. Mirkwood Forest, though he didn't know its name, stretched beneath his damaged ship like a diseased lung. The canopy wasn't just dark, it was wrong. His biomask's analysis kept returning corrupted data. Organic decay, yes, but also something else. Something that registered as neither technology nor natural process. His plasma caster was offline, left wrist blade damaged, cloaking device at 60%. Not ideal, but a true hunter adapted. The ship's emergency beacon would summon clan members in approximately 10 solar cycles. Until then, he had time, and below him, thermal signatures bloomed in the corrupted forest, warm-blooded, moving in organized patterns, carrying weapons, prey. The hunter's mandibles clicked in anticipation. He would hunt. He would claim trophies. And when his clan arrived, he would present proof that even damaged, even alone, he was worthy of their respect. What he didn't know was that 9 specific prey were about to enter his hunting ground, and they carried something that would change everything. The descent through atmosphere should have been routine. The Yautja, his clan name translating roughly to dark blood in human tongues, had performed atmospheric entries on hostile worlds dozens of times. But something about this planet's magnetosphere interfaced badly with his ship's already damaged systems. The first warning came as electromagnetic interference. His navigation displays flickered, showing impossible readings. Energy signatures that registered as both organic and technological, yet were neither. Whatever civilization existed below possessed something his people's scientists hadn't encountered. The second warning was the impact. Darkblood's claws dug into his command throne as the ship shuddered. Alarms shrieked in Yautja battle cant. Hull integrity compromised, plasma systems offline, cloaking generator critical damage. The small hunting vessel that had served him faithfully across 3 campaigns was dying around him. He had perhaps 30 seconds to choose a landing zone. His thermal vision swept the planet's surface. Vast forests, more vegetation than he'd ever seen on a single world. Mountain ranges that made his homeworld's peaks look like foothills. And there, in the forest's heart, something that made his hunter's instincts flare with recognition. Corruption. Not natural decay, but intentional wrongness. Something had twisted that forest the way a hunter might twist prey's neck, with purpose, with malice. His mandibles spread in what humans might have called a smile. A corrupted forest meant dangerous prey, and dangerous prey meant worthy trophies. Darkblood aimed for the corruption's edge and hit the emergency landing sequence. His last thought before the crash was simple, primal. The hunt begins. The impact carved a trench through Mirkwood's diseased soil. Ancient trees, things that had stood for thousands of years, shattered like kindling under the alien vessel's mass. The ship skipped once, twice, then buried itself in a ravine where even Mirkwood's perpetual twilight couldn't penetrate. Darkblood's biomass cracked against the command console. Warning, optical systems compromised. The heads-up display flickered, died, then rebooted in emergency mode. His shoulder ached where the crash harness had bitten through armor, but he'd survived worse. The Yautja rose smoothly despite the pain. His species didn't acknowledge injury until the hunt was complete. Pain was information, nothing more. And right now, that information told him he had 3 cracked ribs, a torn muscle in his left shoulder, and approximately 6 hours before his body's accelerated healing would restore full combat capability. Acceptable. He moved through his dying ship with practiced efficiency. Emergency kit, retrieved. Backup wrist blades, equipped. Medical supplies, secured. His plasma caster remained offline, The ship's power core had taken critical damage, but a true hunter didn't rely on ranged weapons anyway. The coward's tool, his clan elders called such technology. Useful for unworthy prey or dangerous game, but a warrior proved himself with blades. The ship's external sensors still functioned. Darkblood studied the readings, his mandibles clicking softly as he processed information. The air outside contained oxygen levels within acceptable parameters. Temperature? Cool but tolerable. Gravity? Slightly lighter than his homeworld. He could work with this, but the life signs... His head tilted as he studied the thermal readouts. Dozens of signatures within scanning range, some small prey animals judging by their movement patterns, others larger, and some. His vision cycled through electromagnetic spectrum analysis, several signatures that registered incorrectly. Not warm-blooded mammals, but something else. Organic, yes, but reading as almost cold despite movement indicating consciousness. And their body structure. 8 legs, massive thoraxes, a new species, potentially a new trophy. Darkblood's hunting instinct thrummed with anticipation as he activated his cloaking device. The generator had taken damage, he'd be visible in direct sunlight, and his shimmer would betray him to trained eyes. But it would suffice for reconnaissance. He opened the ship's hatch and stepped into Mirkwood Forest. The smell hit him first. Darkblood species had hunted across toxic swamps and volcanic hellscapes, but this was different. Not just rot, but wrongness. The air itself tasted diseased. His biomask's filters struggled to process it, warning indicators flashing amber as unknown compounds registered. Organic corruption, 73%. Concentration. Unknown magical residue detected. Recommendation: full environmental suit. Magic. The word had no direct translation in Yautja, but his people weren't ignorant of such forces. Some prey species across the cosmos wielded energies that defied technological analysis. His clan simply called it soft metal, power that couldn't be seen, measured, or collected as trophy. It made such prey either dangerous or worthless depending on the hunt. Darkblood moved into the forest with predatory silence. His cloaked form passed between trees that looked like they were screaming. Bark twisted into expressions of agony, branches reached like skeletal fingers. And the webs. He stopped, studying the massive structure spanning between 2 corrupted oaks. The web was architectural, not the random construction of mindless arachnids, but intentional design. Strong points anchored in specific locations, patterns that suggested intelligence in the weaver, and the silk itself. Darkblood's claw traced one strand. His biomask analyzed the material. Tensile strength exceeding any natural spider silk in his databases. Adhesive properties that could immobilize prey 3 times his mass, and subtle vibrations running through the entire web, conveying information about movement, weight, location, a sophisticated trap, which meant sophisticated hunter. His mandibles clicked approval. This world was already exceeding expectations. Then the web's owner arrived, and Darkblood reconsidered his assessment from sophisticated to worthy trophy. The spider was massive, easily the size of a small transport vehicle, its 8 legs moving with horrifying coordination across its web. But that wasn't what made Darkblood's hunter instinct flare with interest. It was intelligent. He could see it in the creature's movements. The way it approached with caution rather than animal aggression. The way its multiple eyes studied him despite his cloaking. It couldn't see him perfectly, but it knew something was wrong with its web. The spider chittered, a sound that Darkblood's translator couldn't parse. Not animal communication. Language, crude perhaps, but intentional meaning behind the sounds. The creature spoke. Darkblood's claws flexed. His damaged wrist blade extended with a satisfying click. and for the first time since landing, he felt the familiar thrill of true hunt. Not extermination of beasts, but combat against something that could think, plan, and potentially kill him if he made mistakes. The spider's front legs rose in clear threat display. Darkblood's answer was to deactivate his cloaking device. The shimmer fell away, revealing his full 7-foot frame. Biomechanical armor that had withstood plasma fire and xenomorph claws. A mask that transformed his face into something from nightmares. And body language, the stance, the blade positioning, that any predator would recognize. Challenge accepted. The spider's chittering changed. Pitch. Darkblood's translator caught fragments now. Not food, not elf, not dwarf. What? It was afraid, but it was also curious. Good. Fear meant respect. Curiosity meant intelligence, and intelligent, fearful prey fought hardest, made the best trophies, earned the most honor. Darkblood clicked his mandibles in response, his species' way of saying, "Come." The spider came. It moved faster than his damaged sensors predicted. One moment it was 10 meters away, the next its fangs were aiming for his throat. Darkblood's combat reflexes, honed across centuries, kicked in. He rolled left, his wrist blade singing out to slash through one of the spider's legs. The limbs severed. The spider shrieked, actual pain, actual understanding of injury, and scuttled backward on 7 remaining legs. Darkblood studied the severed appendage. His biomass confirmed chitin composition unknown to databases, venom sacs in the chelicerae potent enough to drop prey 5 times his size, and a neural structure suggesting processing power beyond what 8-legged beasts should possess. He'd found his first trophy. The spider charged again, this time trying web-based tactics. Silk shot from its spinnerets like thrown nets. Darkblood's instincts screamed danger. One touch and he'd be immobilized. He dodged, rolled, came up slashing. More legs fell. The spider's shrieks grew desperate. Then it did something that elevated Darkblood's respect considerably. It retreated. Tactically, using terrain and webs to cover its escape while maintaining eye contact, assessing whether the hunter would follow. Wounded prey that ran was common. Wounded prey that retreated strategically while still evaluating their opponent? That was rare. Darkblood let it go. He'd proven his point. He was the superior hunter. The spider had proven its worth, intelligent enough to know when survival mattered more than territory. Besides, he had other prey to evaluate. His biomask's sensors picked up new thermal signatures approaching from the south. Multiple contacts. Bipedal, armed, moving in organized formation. Darkblood clicked his mandibles and reactivated his cloaking device. The damaged generator sparked but held. He'd gotten his first taste of this world's danger. Now it was time to see what the organized prey looked like. What he was about to discover would change his understanding of worthy hunt forever. Because approaching through Mirkwood's diseased heart were 9 warriors carrying more than just weapons. They carried the fate of an entire world. Gandalf had been silent for 3 hours. That alone told Aragorn something was deeply wrong. The wizard typically filled travel time with stories, wisdom, or at minimum complaints about the pace. But since they'd entered Mirkwood's borders at dawn, Gandalf had barely spoken. His staff glowed faintly. Subtle magic keeping the worst of the forest's corruption at bay. But his expression remained troubled. "You sense it too," Aragorn said quietly, keeping his voice low enough that the hobbits wouldn't overhear. "I sense many things in this forest," Gandalf replied, his eyes never leaving the twisted canopy above. Sauron's corruption from Dol Guldur, the spider's malice, ancient magic from when this was Greenwood the Great. He paused. But there's something else. Something that doesn't belong to any of those categories. Legolas approached silently, his elven grace making no sound on the corrupted forest floor. "The trees speak of an intruder, not orc, not spider. Something that fell from the sky last night with fire and thunder. A dragon? Gimli asked hopefully. The dwarf had been eager for combat since they'd left Rivendell, and fighting a dragon would at least give him bragging rights. No, Legolas said, his usually melodic voice carrying an edge of unease. Dragons are known to the trees, even feared. The forest has no name for what walks here now. Aragorn's hand instinctively moved to his sword hilt. As a ranger, he'd tracked everything from wargs to wraiths through wilderness. He knew the signs of predator territories, claw marks, scat, territorial boundaries. But since entering Mirkwood, he'd seen none of that. Just silence. And in a corrupted forest that should be teeming with spiders and worse, silence was more terrifying than any howl. How long until we reach the forest's eastern edge? Boromir asked. The Gondorian warrior looked uncomfortable, less from fear than from being unable to see potential threats. For a soldier used to open battles on Osgiliath's ruins, Mirkwood's claustrophobic twilight was psychological warfare. 2 days if we maintain pace and avoid spider nests, Aragorn answered. 3 if we're delayed. Then we press on, Gandalf decided. Whatever strangeness has entered Mirkwood, it's not our concern. The ring is all that matters, Frodo finished quietly. The hobbit's hand rested on his chest where the one ring hung beneath his shirt. Since entering the forest, he'd felt its weight increase. Not physically, the ring's mass never changed, but psychologically. Like something in Mirkwood recognized what he carried and hungered for it. Sam stayed close to Frodo, his loyal presence a constant comfort. Merry and Pippin maintained their usual banter, but even they seemed subdued by the forest's oppressive atmosphere. They walked, and 40 meters above them, perfectly camouflaged against a diseased oak's trunk, Darkblood watched. The Yautja's biomask cycled through vision modes as he studied the 9 travelers. Thermal imaging revealed fascinating diversity. The 4 small ones, barely larger than human children, registered as normal warm-blooded mammals. Heart rates elevated from fear but controlled, carrying weapons but untrained in their use, probably servants or slaves. The bearded one with the axe showed elevated muscle density. His thermal signature indicated tremendous physical strength despite his short stature. A warrior, clearly. The armor and weapon care proved that. Species, unknown, but worthy of evaluation. The tall ones were more interesting. The one with the bow moved wrong, too gracefully, too silently. His thermal signature ran several degrees cooler than the others. And when Darkblood switched to electromagnetic spectrum, he saw it. The archer literally glowed with some form of bioelectric energy that shouldn't exist in organic beings. Mutation? Evolution? Or that soft metal magic his sensors kept detecting? The human leader, Darkblood, recognized the species from his databases, carried himself like a warrior king. Every movement spoke of combat experience. His hand never strayed far from his sword. His eyes constantly scanned for threats with the practiced awareness of someone who'd survived by staying alert. Worthy prey. Definitely. But it was the old one with the staff that made Darkblood's instincts flare warning. His biomask's readings went insane when analyzing the bearded elder. Thermal signature inconsistent with organic life. Electromagnetic radiation pouring off him in waves. And something else. Something his technology simply couldn't classify. Power. Raw, immense power barely contained by aged flesh. Darkblood had encountered prey like this exactly twice before. Both times he'd earned his greatest trophies. Both times he'd nearly died. This was no ordinary hunting party. This was a war party carrying something of immense importance. The Yautja's claws flexed with anticipation. He'd come to this world expecting simple hunt. But this was why his clan traveled the stars, to find worthy prey, to test themselves against the unknown, to earn honor through challenge. He would observe, learn their patterns, identify the strongest, and then… Darkblood's mandibles clicked softly as he planned the hunt. Then he would test them, and the worthy would earn quick deaths. The unworthy would simply die. But something else caught his attention before he could shadow the group further. Movement in the webs to the east, multiple thermal signatures. Dozens of the spider creatures all converging on the traveler's path with clear intent. An ambush. Darkblood's head tilted, considering. He could simply watch. Let the spiders weaken his prey before engaging. A tactically sound decision, but something about that felt wrong. Not honorless exactly, but close. These 9 moved through spider territory without knowing. Fought nothing. The ambush would be slaughter, not combat. And his honor code was clear. Prey deserved a fighting chance. Otherwise, the trophy meant nothing. Darkblood made his decision. He would intervene. Not to save the travelers, he had no such sentiment, but to preserve worthy prey for his own hunt. The spiders had already proven their danger, but they weren't his target. These 9 were. He moved through the canopy like liquid shadow, positioning himself above the spider ambush. His wrist blades extended with mechanical precision. His cloaking device shimmered but held. And when the ambush came, the spiders would learn something important. They weren't the only hunters in Mirkwood anymore. "Stop," Legolas said suddenly. The Fellowship halted. Aragorn's hand went to his sword immediately. Gandalf's staff blazed brighter. Even the hobbits sensed danger, their small hands finding weapons. "What is it?" Boromir demanded, his shield already raised. Legolas's elven eyes scanned the canopy, his expression deeply troubled. "Webs. We're surrounded by webs. They've herded us into a kill zone." As if his words summoned them, the spiders emerged. They came from above and below simultaneously. Massive arachnids dropping from webs while others surged from hidden burrows. Their chittering filled the air, not animal sounds but speech, horrible speech that spoke of hunger and malice. Fresh meat, not had elf in decades. The small ones will be tender. "Formation!" Aragorn shouted. The Fellowship drew together, weapons raised. 9 against at least 20 spiders, each the size of ponies. Bad odds, terrible odds. The first spider lunged at Frodo. Sam was there instantly, his barrow blade, forged by ancient Númenórean smiths, slashing through chitin and mandibles. The spider shrieked and retreated, but 3 more took its place. Gimli's axe sang its own song of death. Dwarven steel bit through spider legs with practiced efficiency. Come on then, I'll take you all." His warrior's pride wouldn't allow fear, even as webbing shot past his head. Legolas's arrows flew with mechanical precision. Each shot found eyes, joints, soft tissue between armor plates. Elven accuracy turned the archer into a precision death machine. But there were too many. Even he couldn't maintain this pace forever. Boromir fought with Gondorian discipline, his shield blocking fangs while his sword opened spider thoraxes. But Silk caught his sword arm. He cursed, cutting himself free with precious seconds lost. The hobbits, Merry, Pippin, Frodo, and Sam, fought back-to-back with desperate courage. Their small size actually helped in the chaos, letting them duck under attacks that would have caught larger warriors. Gandalf's staff exploded with light. "Naur and Edraith Ammon!" Fire answered his command, catching spider silk and spreading. The spiders shrieked and retreated from the flames. But their numbers kept growing. They were losing. Then something impossible happened. A spider lunging for Legolas suddenly stopped, mid-leap. Its body went rigid, then it was flung backward with massive force into 3 others. The spider's chittering changed from hunger to confusion. "What?" Aragorn started. Another spider, this one targeting Gimli, simply exploded, not from magic or arrow, but from something cutting it in half so fast the pieces separated before falling. Blood sprayed in an arc. The dwarf blinked at his unexpected salvation, his axe still raised for defense. "There's something else here," Gandalf said, his wizard senses straining. "Something helping us. But I cannot see it." Darkblood moved through the spider ambush like death-given form. His wrist blades carved through chitin with surgical precision. His strength, far exceeding human norms, let him tear through spider defenses that should have required multiple strikes. And his cloaking device, while damaged, kept him invisible to spider and warrior alike. This was what the Yautja did. This was why they were feared across 17 worlds. They were the ultimate hunters. And when they hunted, even other predators became prey. A spider's fangs lunged for the small one with the sword, the loyal one who'd protected his friend. Darkblood's blade took the spider's head before fangs could connect. The body collapsed, headless, ichor pooling. Another spider, this one attempting to web the archer from behind. Darkblood's claws seized its spinnerets and tore them out. The spider's shriek was cut short by a blade through its central nervous cluster. He wasn't saving them. That would be weakness. He was managing his hunt, preserving prey he'd marked for evaluation. The spiders, realizing they faced something far deadlier than the 9 travelers, began retreating. Their chittering became fear sounds. Not food, not food. The invisible death, oh no, flee, flee. They scattered into Mirkwood's shadows, leaving 20 dead behind and 9 very confused warriors. The Fellowship stood in silence, weapons raised, surrounded by spider corpses that they hadn't killed. "What?" Gimli said slowly. "In Mahal's name, was that?" Legolas's eyes scanned the carnage with elven perception. "These spiders, look at the wounds, precision cuts. Something hunted them while they hunted us." Aragorn examined the nearest corpse, a single slash through the spider's neural center. No wasted motion. Perfect anatomy knowledge. This wasn't battle, this was butchery by an expert. "But why?" Boromir demanded. "Why save us?" Gandalf's expression was deeply troubled. "I don't believe we were saved, my dear Boromir. I believe we were preserved. Like a farmer protecting livestock from wolves, so he can slaughter them himself later." The implication hung in air thick with spider blood and forest corruption. Something was hunting them. Something invisible. Something that killed spiders the way they might kill rabbits. And it wanted them alive, for now. "We need to move," Aragorn decided. "Now, fast. Put distance between us and whatever that was." "It's watching us right now," Legolas said quietly, his archer's instincts screaming. "I can't see it, but I feel its eyes. We're being studied." High in the canopy, Darkblood's mandibles clicked in approval. The archer had good instincts. Not good enough to actually see through advanced cloaking technology, but good enough to sense predator attention. Worthy. The small, loyal one who defended his friend with desperate courage. Worthy. The dwarf whose battle rage spoke of warrior culture. Potentially worthy. The human leader who immediately adapted tactics. Definitely worthy. The old one with power radiating like a sun. Dangerous. Perhaps too worthy for Honor Hunt. Something about that one suggested it might be more efficient to observe rather than engage. And the small one carrying the source of overwhelming electromagnetic radiation at his chest. Darkblood's biomask focused on the smallest traveler, the one the others unconsciously protected, the one whose thermal signature showed constant stress despite no immediate threat. That one carried something his sensors couldn't fully analyze through whatever containment held it. But the readings, power levels that shouldn't exist in an object that small, reality distortion in a 10-meter radius, and a psychic pressure that even his technology could detect. A weapon? An artifact? Something worth more than any trophy? Darkblood's hunter instinct warred with his curiosity. Protocol demanded he focus on the hunt, claim trophies, prove his worth. But his species hadn't become apex predators through blind adherence to protocol. They'd survived by recognizing when something was more important than standard hunts. And whatever that small one carried, that was important. The decision crystallized. He would hunt them still. Honor demanded it. But he would also learn what they carried and why they traveled through corrupted forest with such desperate urgency. The Yautja melted back into the canopy, following the Fellowship as they hurried through Mirkwood with new fear driving their pace. Behind them, spider corpses lay in pools of ichor, evidence of something the Fellowship couldn't understand, and ahead of them the forest grew darker still, because they were approaching the deepest corruption, where even Darkblood's sensors struggled to function, where something far worse than spiders waited, where the real hunt would begin. The Fellowship made camp as the forest's perpetual twilight deepened into something approaching night. Not proper camp. No fires, minimal rest, sentries rotating every hour. But even warriors needed sleep, and they'd been walking for 16 hours straight. Aragorn chose a defensive position, a small clearing with sight lines and backs against a massive fallen oak. Not ideal, but Mirkwood offered no ideal positions. "I'll take first watch," Boromir volunteered. The Gondorian's pride had been stung by needing invisible rescue. He wanted to prove his worth. "Wake me in 2 hours," Aragorn agreed. The ranger knew when to let a warrior's ego work in the group's favor. The hobbits huddled together, exhaustion overcoming even their fear. Sam refused to sleep, sitting beside Frodo with his sword across his knees. Loyal to the end, Gimli somehow managed to snore despite the circumstances. Dwarves possessed the useful ability to rest anywhere, any time, knowing they'd wake at the first sign of real danger. Legolas didn't sleep. Elves required less rest than men, and he'd volunteered to maintain constant watch from a vantage point. His position in a tree fork gave him the best possible sight lines, which meant he was the first to see the corpse. "Aragorn," the elf's voice carried quiet urgency, "you need to see this." The ranger was up instantly, Gandalf following. They approached Legolas's position, and the elf pointed northeast. In a small hollow illuminated by diseased moonlight through the canopy, an orc patrol lay dead, but the manner of their death made even Aragorn's experienced stomach turn. "They've been skinned," Gandalf said quietly, his wizard staff casting light that revealed the full horror. "Every one of them, and their skulls removed." 5 orcs, 5 corpses stripped of skin with surgical precision, 5 empty skull cavities where heads should have been, and no blood pool. The blood had been drained methodically. "This is not spider work," Legolas said, his elven features pale. "This is ritual, trophy-taking." Aragorn studied the scene with ranger expertise. "Killed 2 days ago, judging by decay, before we entered Mirkwood." He indicated claw marks on nearby trees. "Whatever did this is large, bipedal, and strong enough to overpower armed orcs without alerting their companions." "The same thing that killed the spiders?" Boromir asked, having joined them despite instructions to maintain camp position. "I believe so," Gandalf said gravely. "But this tells us something important. The spiders were killed efficiently with minimal damage. These orcs," he gestured to the skinned remains, "were killed ritually, with purpose beyond mere death." "Trophy hunting," Aragorn said quietly. "I've seen similar in far northern tribes, warriors who skin their kills and take skulls as proof of prowess. But what manner of creature hunts both spider and orc?" Legolas wondered. What could move through Mirkwood, killing at will without the forest's denizens recognizing the threat? In the shadows beyond their sight, Darkblood listened. His translator had finally begun parsing their language, similar enough to other human dialects that his AI could establish linguistic patterns. He understood perhaps one word in 3, but context filled gaps. They'd found his trophies, were analyzing his hunting methods, were trying to understand what hunted them. Good. Prey that understood it was prey fought harder. But their analysis was incomplete. They thought him a beast, a creature of this world. They didn't understand he came from the stars. That he represented a civilization that had mastered technologies their world couldn't imagine. That ignorance would be their disadvantage. Darkblood had already selected his first target from the 9, not the strongest. That would come later. Not the weakest. That would be dishonorable. But someone who would test his abilities while providing a worthy skull for his collection. The bearded one with the axe, the dwarf. He'd observed the short warrior's fighting style during the spider ambush. Aggressive, fearless, technically skilled. The kind of opponent who would charge rather than flee. Who would die fighting rather than die running. Perfect. The Yautja began preparing. His wrist blades needed sharpening. His cloaking device required adjustments for close quarters combat, and he needed to isolate the dwarf from the pack. Wounded prey ran to the herd, but proud prey could be goaded into separation. And dwarf pride, Darkblood had observed, was considerable. Gimli woke to his watch shift with characteristic grumbling. Pointy-eared elf could have let me sleep another hour, he muttered, but there was no real heat in it. Legolas smiled slightly. Dwarves need their beauty rest, though in your case perhaps centuries more. Keep talking and I'll use your arrows for kindling, Gimli shot back, but he was grinning. The elf-dwarf antagonism was mostly performance now. Comfortable banter between warriors learning to respect each other. Gimli took position at the clearing's edge, his axe within easy reach. The forest pressed close, making even his dwarven dark visions struggle. But he'd stood watch in worse places. The mines of Moria had darkness that was solid, that had weight. This was just creepy trees and spider webs. The sound came from his left, barely audible, a click, click, click that wasn't natural to forest ambience. Gimli's hand found his axe. "Who's there?" The clicking stopped. "I know someone's there," Gimli said louder, his voice carrying. "Show yourself or I'll assume you're orc and treat you accordingly." Movement in the shadows, a shimmer like heat distortion, and then nothing. But Gimli's warrior instinct, honed through decades of combat, screamed that something was right there 3 meters away, watching. "Aragorn!" he called, not taking his eyes from the shimmer. "Aragorn!" The ranger was there in seconds, sword drawn. "What?" "There," Gimli pointed. "Something's there. I can't see it, but it's there." Aragorn's eyes strained. He saw what Gimli meant. A slight distortion in the air, like looking through bad glass. But no solid form. No identifiable threat. Then the distortion moved. It circled them, slowly, deliberately, studying them the way a butcher studies meat. Legolas appeared, arrow knocked. "I see it too, some form of camouflage. But why show itself now?" The clicking came again, louder, more complex, almost like language. Gandalf's staff blazed. "Thrista, reveal yourself!" The spell struck the distortion like a wave hitting a rock. For just a moment, barely a heartbeat, the magic forced the camouflage to fail. The Fellowship saw. 7 feet tall. Biomechanical armor that looked grown rather than forged. A mask that was skull-like yet insectoid. Dreadlocks that weren't hair but something else. Sensory organs maybe. And a body that radiated predatory grace. Then the camouflage reasserted itself and the figure vanished. But they'd seen enough. "That's no creature of Middle-earth," Gandalf breathed. That's something else. Something from beyond. Beyond what? Boromir demanded. Beyond our world entirely. Silence held the clearing. Then Gimli laughed. Actual laughter tinged with equal parts terror and excitement. Well then, the dwarf said, raising his axe. Let it be known that Gimli, son of Glóin, does not fear creatures from beyond world's edge. Show yourself, demon, fight me properly. The clicking sound changed. Darkblood's mandibles spread in what might have been respect or amusement. The dwarf issued challenge. Direct, honest, fearless. This one was definitely worthy. Darkblood deactivated his cloaking device. Let them see him fully. Let them understand what hunted them. The Fellowship's reactions were everything he'd hoped. The old wizard's staff blazed defensive magic. The archer's arrow tracked his center mass. The human warriors raised weapons with trained discipline. But the dwarf just grinned. Aye, now that's more like it, Gimli said. A proper enemy, no invisible cowardice, just honest battle. Darkblood's translator caught most of that. His head tilted, assessing. The dwarf spoke of honor, of proper combat, concepts the Yautja understood intrinsically. Perhaps Darkblood considered this world wasn't as primitive as first assessment suggested. Perhaps these prey understood the sacred nature of hunt. His wrist blade extended, an invitation, a promise, a statement. I am hunter. You are prey, but you are worthy prey. Your death will have honor. Gimli understood perfectly. He raised his axe in mirror response. No! Aragorn grabbed Gimli's shoulder. We can't fight that thing. Look at it. Look at what it did to the orcs. Which is exactly why I'll fight it, Gimli countered. Because if I don't, it'll hunt us one by one until we're all skin trophies. Better to face it with pride than die running. The dwarf speaks wisdom, Gandalf said quietly, though his expression showed how much he hated admitting it. This creature, it's a hunter. It takes trophies, but it also revealed itself when challenged directly. His eyes studied Darkblood with wizard's perception. It has honor code of some kind, rules it follows. Then we use those rules, Aragorn decided, his ranger's tactical mind working. Gimli, if you're determined to be foolish. I am. Then make it agree to terms, single combat. The rest of us left unharmed if you lose. Darkblood understood enough of the conversation to grasp the proposal. His mandibles clicked consideration. Single combat against the dwarf warrior. Honor terms. The others would not interfere, and he would not hunt them immediately if the dwarf fell. Acceptable. It was time to test this world's warriors properly. He clicked affirmative, then gestured to a clearing 30 meters away. Open ground. No advantages. Pure skill against skill. He agrees, Legolas translated, somehow reading body language across species barriers. But Gimli? I know, the dwarf said quietly. If I lose, I die. But I'd rather die fighting than waiting to be picked off in the dark. He walked toward the clearing and Darkblood followed. Behind them, the Fellowship could only watch and hope that Gimli's courage wouldn't cost them a friend. The clearing was perhaps 20 meters across, lit by sickly green moonlight through Mirkwood's canopy. Natural arena for predator and prey. Gimli stood at one end, his ancestral axe held in the proper dwarven grip, low, balanced, ready to move in any direction. His beard was braided for combat, nothing for enemies to grab. His armor checked, his mind clear. He'd fought orcs, goblins, trolls, and once helped kill a dragon from a distance. But this was different. This was a duel with something that considered combat an art form. He could see that in how the creature moved. Not the shambling brutality of orcs, not the bestial fury of wargs, but controlled, precise predator grace. Come on then, Gimli said quietly. Show me what hunters from beyond World's Edge can do. Darkblood's wrist blades extended fully, both of them glinting in the diseased moonlight. His mandibles clicked once. Ready? Gimli's response was to charge. No preamble, no posturing. Just sudden, explosive aggression that closed the distance before Darkblood could adjust. The axe sang. Darkblood's blade met it with a screech of metal on metal. The impact sent sparks flying, lit the clearing like lightning. Gimli spun, using the axe's momentum to bring it around for another strike, low this time, aiming for legs. Darkblood leaped, impossibly high, impossibly fast. His boot caught Gimli's shoulder during the arc, not a killing blow, but enough to send the dwarf stumbling. Gimli rolled with it, came up with axe already swinging. His dwarven style was all momentum and recovery, turning every impact into setup for the next strike. Darkblood adapted. His wrist blades wove defensive patterns, catching the axe at angles that redirected force rather than meeting it head-on. Efficient, economical. The sign of a warrior who'd fought opponents of every size and strength. They circled. The axe met blades. Dwarf strength met alien technology. For 30 seconds, they were perfectly matched. Then Darkblood changed tactics. His left blade caught the axe head, locking it. His right blade thrust for Gimli's exposed throat. The dwarf's helmet met the blade instead. The impact dented metal but saved his life. Gimli headbutted forward, using his helm as a weapon. Caught Darkblood's mask, staggered the hunter. "Ha!" Gimli roared, pressing advantage. The axe came up, around, down, with all dwarven strength behind it. Darkblood's arm rose to block. The axe bit into his forearm armor, and for the first time, the alien bled. Green-yellow ichor leaked from the wound. Darkblood looked at his damaged arm, then at Gimli. His mandibles spread wide. Rage or respect? Both. The Yautja's counterattack was furious. Blades moved faster than Gimli could fully track. The dwarf's armor took hits, scratches, dents, near misses that would have been lethal without protection. But Gimli gave as good as he got. His axe found Darkblood's thigh, opening another wound, then his shoulder, slicing through armor. They were both bleeding, both wounded, both fighting with the desperate fury of warriors who knew death was one mistake away. From the forest edge, the Fellowship watched in horrified amazement. "He's actually fighting it to a standstill," Boromir breathed. "Dwarven battle rage," Legolas said, respect clear in his voice. "I've heard stories but never witnessed it. They fight as if death is irrelevant, as if honor is all that matters." Gandalf said nothing, but his knuckles were white on his staff. He'd grown fond of the dwarf. Losing him would hurt. In the clearing, the fight reached its crescendo. Gimli and Darkblood locked weapons face to face, the dwarf's strength versus the aliens. For a moment, they were frozen, each trying to overpower the other. Then Darkblood's helmet cracked. Gimli's previous headbutt had weakened it, and now it simply failed. Pieces fell away, revealing the face beneath. Gimli got a glimpse. Mandibles, tusks, reptilian eyes, a face designed for nightmares, and didn't flinch. "You're ugly," Gimli grunted, "but I've seen uglier in Mirror." Darkblood's mandibles clicked. His translator parsed the words, and something impossible happened. The Yautja laughed. Not human laughter, but the clicking, chittering sound his species used for the same emotion. This dwarf, this warrior, faced death with humor, faced unknown horror with defiance and jokes. Worthy, incredibly worthy. Darkblood made his decision. He released the weapon lock and stepped back. His wrist blades retracted. He raised empty hands in universal gesture. "Enough." Gimli blinked, axe still raised. "What?" The alien clicked, gestured, then did something that shocked everyone watching. He removed his damaged mask completely and placed it on the ground. Then his wrist blades, removed the entire mounting system and placed them beside the mask. unarmed, disarmed, voluntarily. "What's it doing?" Sam whispered. "I think," Gandalf said slowly, "it's showing respect. It's saying Gimli proved himself worthy, that continuing the fight would be pointless." Gimli lowered his axe slowly, stared at the alien warrior who just surrendered. Then, moving on pure instinct, he did something equally shocking. He thrust his axe blade first into the ground and stepped away from it. Two warriors, unarmed, facing each other across blood-spattered ground. Darkblood's mandibles spread. He extended his hand, palm open, claws retracted, the gesture his people used to acknowledge worthy opponents. Gimli looked at the hand, at the claws that could have gutted him, at the alien eyes that held something almost like friendship. "Aye," Gimli said, "you're a right bastard, but a proper bastard, the kind that fights fair." He clasped the offered hand, and in that moment something unprecedented happened. A dwarf of Middle-earth and a Yautja hunter from distant stars acknowledged mutual respect. Warrior to warrior, honor to honor. The fellowship emerged from the trees cautiously. Aragorn's sword was still drawn but lowering. Legolas's bow had no arrow nocked. "Well," the ranger said, "that was unexpected." Darkblood retrieved his equipment and reattached it. He studied the 9 travelers with new assessment. Not prey, not exactly. Warriors, honorable warriors. The distinction mattered to his species. Prey you hunted, warriors you tested. These had passed the test. His biomask booted up, the cracked display showing damage. But functional enough. His translator now had language samples from the dwarf. Full parsing would take hours, but basic communication was possible. Darkblood tried his first words in their tongue. The translator's synthesizer mangled the pronunciation, but meaning carried. "You. Honor. Warrior honor." Gimli grinned despite his wounds. "Aye. You too, you ugly bastard, you too." And in the diseased forest of Mirkwood, an impossible alliance formed, because 9 warriors carrying the fate of the world and 1 alien hunter seeking honor all shared one thing. They were being hunted by something far worse than each other. And it was coming. Gandalf's magic sealed Gimli's wounds with practiced efficiency, though the wizard kept shooting glances at their unexpected guest. Darkblood sat on a fallen log, apparently content to let the fellowship tend their injured while he... Actually, Aragorn realized with growing unease while he studied them like a scholar examining interesting specimens. The alien's mask had been repaired. How, Aragorn couldn't say, and those glowing eyes tracked every movement. Not threatening exactly, but intensely observant, learning, recording, analyzing. "So," Boromir said, breaking the uncomfortable silence, "are we just going to ignore that we've apparently made friends with the thing that was hunting us?" "Not friends," Aragorn corrected. "More like mutual respect between warriors. It's not hunting us anymore." "How can you possibly know that?" Boromir challenged. "Because if it wanted us dead," Gimli said, wincing as Gandalf's magic knitted a particularly deep cut, "we'd be dead. That thing could have killed me 10 different ways during the fight. Instead, it chose honor bout. That means something." Legolas had been studying Darkblood from a safe distance, his elven sight noting details others missed. "Its armor is damaged. Look at the chest piece scorching from heat exposure. And there," he pointed, "impact damage that crumpled metal. Whatever brought it to Middle-earth wasn't a gentle arrival." Darkblood's mask turned toward the elf, tracking his words through body language, if not full translation. The Yautja stood and approached a nearby tree, pointing at his wrist device, then at the sky, then making a downward crashing motion with his hand. "It fell from the sky," Frodo said quietly. "Like a star falling. Its vessel crashed." perceptive little one," Gandalf murmured. The wizard studied Darkblood with wizard's sight, seeing beyond physical form to essence beneath. What he saw troubled him. This is no demon or corrupted creature. It's alien in the truest sense. Not of this world, not of any world connected to Middle-earth's creation. "Then how did it get here?" Sam asked, his loyal nature warring with his fear of the unknown. "The portals," Gandalf said grimly. "Mirkwood sits beneath Dol Guldur, where Sauron's corruption weakens the barriers between worlds. If this creature's vessel passed too close while traveling between stars..." He trailed off, the implications clear. Darkblood understood enough. His translator had caught portal, stars, and world barriers. He activated his wrist display, showing them holographic star maps, data they couldn't comprehend but images they understood. Planets, stars, vast distances, and a trajectory line ending at here. "It's stranded," Aragorn said. "Its vessel crashed and it can't leave." Darkblood clicked affirmative, then pointed at his wrist device, tapped out a rhythm, tick, 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 and held up 8 fingers. 8 days? Pippin guessed. 8 days until what? Darkblood gestured at the sky again, made a motion of ships descending. "Reinforcements," Legolas translated. "Its people are coming in 8 days to retrieve it." The Yautja nodded, appreciating the archer's quick understanding. He gestured at himself, then at the clearing where he'd fought Gimli, then made hunting motions. His meaning was clear. He'd intended to spend those 8 days hunting, proving himself while stranded. "But now?" Aragorn asked. Darkblood looked at each of them in turn. Then he did something that surprised everyone. He pointed at the corrupted forest around them, made a gesture of something worse lurking, and positioned himself between the Fellowship and the darkness. "It's offering to help us," Gandalf said, wonder in his voice. "It respects us enough to temporarily abandon its hunt and protect us?" "Not protect," Gimli corrected, understanding warrior think. "Fight alongside. There's a difference. Protection implies we're weak. Fighting alongside means we're equals." Darkblood's mandibles clicked approval. The dwarf understood. "But why?" Boromir insisted. "What does it gain?" Merry spoke up unexpectedly. "Maybe it's not about gain. Maybe it's bored of hunting things that can't fight back properly. The spiders, the orcs, they're dangerous but not challenging for something like this. But us?" He looked at the alien warrior with unusual wisdom. "We're interesting. We fight with honor. We're worth fighting beside instead of against." Darkblood's translator caught most of that. He pointed at Merry and clicked enthusiastically. The small one understood. For the Yautja, this was simple logic. He'd come seeking worthy hunt. These 9 provided that. But something else had emerged from their encounter. Respect. Mutual warrior respect transcending species. And his honor code had a clause for such situations. Worthy warriors could become hunting pack, temporary allies, brothers in combat against greater threats. These 9 qualified. Plus, his sensors had been tracking something concerning for the past hour. Multiple thermal signatures gathering in Mirkwood's deepest corruption. Organized movement patterns suggesting intelligence, and energy readings that made his biomask's threat assessment flash warning colors. Something big was coming, something dangerous even for him. Fighting alongside the 9 improved survival odds while providing the combat challenge he'd sought. Aragorn watched the exchange with growing understanding. "Gandalf, what are the chances that whatever brought this warrior to Middle-earth also attracted other attention?" "Considerable," the wizard admitted. "A vessel falling from the stars would have created a beacon visible to every dark power within 100 leagues. And we're in Mirkwood, practically on Dol Guldur's doorstep." He went pale, Oh no. What? Legolas demanded. If the necromancer's servants sensed such power, if they investigated and found alien technology, Sauron himself might take interest. He's always sought weapons to use against the free peoples. As if summoned by Gandalf's words, the forest erupted with sound. Horns, war horns, dozens of them from multiple directions. And beneath the horns, the sound of marching, hundreds of feet, thousands. Orcs, Aragorn breathed, an army of them. Darkblood's biomask cycled through vision modes, analyzing the approaching threat. His mandibles clicked grimly as numbers appeared on his damaged HUD. 500-plus hostiles, multiple species signatures, coordinated assault patterns. This wasn't a hunting party. This was an army sent to capture or kill, and the Fellowship was directly in its path. "Run!" Gandalf commanded. "East, toward Lothlorien, now!" They ran, 9 warriors and 1 alien hunter sprinting through Mirkwood's twilight with an army behind them. The forest blurred past. Diseased trees, spiderwebs, corrupted ground that tried to trip them. Behind them, the orc army crashed through obstacles with brutal efficiency. They weren't trying to be quiet. They were trying to overwhelm through sheer numbers. "They're hurting us!" Aragorn shouted as they ran, "driving us towards something." He was right. The orc positions weren't random, they were strategic, forcing the Fellowship toward a specific direction, toward... "Trap!" Legolas yelled as the ground ahead exploded. From hidden burrows, massive shapes emerged. Not spiders. Something worse. Trolls. Cave trolls dragged from their deep lairs and forced into sunlight by orc handlers. 3 of them, each the size of a small house, their skin thick enough to turn arrows. The Fellowship skidded to a halt, trapped between trolls ahead and army behind. Perfect kill box. "Well," Gimli said, raising his axe, "at least we'll die fighting." Darkblood stepped forward, his wrist blades extended. His plasma caster, the one he'd conserved because honor demanded blade work, charged with a high-pitched whine. He'd used blades against the spiders, against the dwarf. But trolls? Trolls required different tools. The plasma bolt struck the center troll's face, and its entire head vanished in superheated explosion. The massive body collapsed, brainless, as its companions roared in rage and confusion. The remaining trolls charged. "Fight!" Aragorn commanded, and the Fellowship met them. What followed wasn't a battle. It was a masterclass in asymmetric warfare. Legolas's arrows found eyes, the only soft points on troll anatomy. Each shot was perfect, blinding the beasts and making them vulnerable. Boromir and Aragorn worked in tandem, their swords cutting hamstrings and ankle tendons. Strategy over strength. Bring the giants down, then finish them. Gimli did what dwarves did best. He went straight for the legs with his axe, each swing powered by battle rage and dwarf muscle. Bones cracked, joints shattered. The hobbits, brave despite being terrified, threw rocks, stabbed at feet, created distractions that let the warriors land killing blows. Gandalf's staff blazed with power. "Naur! Naur!" Fire erupted around the trolls, not hot enough to kill, but enough to blind, disorient, force them into defensive positions. And Darkblood moved through the chaos like Death's avatar. His plasma caster took one troll's leg off at the knee. His wrist blades opened arteries in the second troll's groin, a killing blow that dropped the beast in seconds. Within 3 minutes, all 3 trolls lay dead or dying. But the orc army had caught up. They poured into the clearing like a black tide, hundreds of them. Goblins from Moria, orcs from Mordor, Uruk-hai from Isengard, united by Sauron's will and driven by fear of their masters. "Back to back," Aragorn commanded. The Fellowship formed a circle, weapons raised. 9 warriors and 1 alien surrounded by an army. "Well," Boromir said, his Gondorian humor surfacing despite everything, "at least no one will question whether we fought bravely." Died bravely, you mean, Pippin corrected. Quiet, both of you, Aragorn snapped. But he was smiling. If they died here, at least they'd die with dignity. The orcs charged, and something impossible happened. The ground erupted, not from below but from within. Roots, ancient massive roots from Mirkwood's eldest trees, burst through the corrupted soil like spears. They impaled orcs by the dozens, lifting them screaming into the canopy. What? Gandalf started. The forest! Legolas shouted, his elven senses perceiving what others missed. The forest is helping us. The elf was right. Mirkwood's trees, corrupted by Sauron but still ancient, still possessed of the memory of when they were Greenwood the Great, had awakened. And they recognized the Fellowship. More specifically, they recognized Gandalf, the wizard whose power ran counter to corruption, who represented the light that had once filled this forest. The trees chose sides. Branches swept through orc ranks like giants' clubs. Roots erupted to create barriers between Fellowship and army. Centuries of corruption fought against millennia of natural sanctity, and nature was winning. But it wouldn't last. Gandalf could feel the forest's strength waning. Sauron's influence was too strong, had run too deep. The trees could give them minutes, maybe an hour. We need to move, he shouted. The forest bought us time, but it won't hold. They ran again. The trees continued their defense, buying precious distance. Behind them, the orc army struggled through roots and branches, their advance slowed to a crawl. Darkblood's translator caught Gandalf's words. He understood. Temporary reprieve. The hunt would resume. But he'd gained valuable data from the encounter. First, these 9 weren't just warriors, they were important. Armies hunted them. The world itself seemed to take sides in their survival. Second, the small one's radiation source, that artifact he carried, was significant enough that major powers wanted it. Third, the old wizard could command elements, not technology, but the soft metal power his sensors couldn't fully analyze. Magic, real functional magic. And fourth, fighting alongside them was far more interesting than hunting them. Darkblood made his decision. He would protect these 9 until his clan arrived. Not from sentiment. Yocha didn't do sentiment, but from warrior's logic. They'd earned his respect. His honor code demanded he repay that respect with loyalty. Besides, if the armies hunting them were this numerous, the battles ahead would be glorious. Trophy-worthy combat against endless enemies. Any warrior would choose that over solo hunting lesser prey. They ran for 2 hours before Gandalf finally called halt. They'd reached Mirkwood's northeastern edge, where the corruption began to fade and something else appeared through the trees. Light, real light, clean and golden, emanating from beyond the forest. Lothlorien, Legolas breathed, his elven heart responding to the Galadrim realm. We've reached the border. And there, standing at the forest's edge with weapons raised, were elven guards. 50 of them, their bows drawn, their faces showing no welcome. Halt! Their captain commanded in Sindarin. Declare yourselves. I am Gandalf the Grey, the wizard called back. With me are warriors of the Fellowship bearing urgent business for the Lady Galadriel. The captain's eyes swept the group, then settled on Darkblood. And that? Gandalf hesitated. How did one explain an alien hunter from beyond the stars? A warrior, he finally said. An ally. One who fights with honor, though he is not of Middle-earth. The elf's expression showed skepticism. But before anyone could argue further, a new voice spoke from the golden light. Let them pass. A figure emerged. Female, ageless, radiating power that made even Darkblood's sensors flare warnings. Galadriel, Lady of Light, stepped from her realm to meet them. Her eyes, ancient beyond measure, studied each member of the Fellowship. Saw Frodo and the ring he carried. Saw Aragorn and the king he would become. saw the hobbit's courage, the dwarf's honor, the wizard's wisdom. And then she looked at Darkblood and something impossible happened. The Yautja heard her voice, in his mind, speaking his own language. Warrior from distant stars, you honor the hunt but have learned honor transcends killing. Welcome to Lothlorien, where even those not born of Arda may find sanctuary. Darkblood's mandibles spread in shock. His species had encountered telepaths before, but never ones who could parse Yautja neural patterns without technology. This female, she was dangerous. Power incarnate wearing flesh as disguise. He clicked respect, clicked acknowledgement, and followed the fellowship into golden light. Behind the Mirkwood's darkness seethed. The orc army regrouped, and deep in Dol Guldur, a dark intelligence turned its attention to the alien technology that had fallen from the sky. Sauron wanted that technology, wanted the weapons, the knowledge, the power it represented, and what Sauron wanted he took. Lothlorien was everything Mirkwood was not. Where that forest drowned in corruption, this one sang with ancient light. The trees here, Malorn trees, Legolas explained, glowed from within. Their golden leaves created canopy that blessed rather than cursed. Darkblood's biomask struggled to process the data. Energy readings that made no technological sense. His thermal vision showed heat signatures from the trees themselves as if they were living furnaces radiating warmth. And when he switched to electromagnetic spectrum, the entire forest blazed like a star. Magic. Concentrated, pure, powerful magic. His sensors couldn't classify it, couldn't measure it, could only acknowledge its existence. The Yautja found this unsettling. His people had conquered 17 worlds through superior technology and warrior prowess. Magic was rare, usually primitive, easily countered. This was neither rare nor primitive. This was power that had existed before technology, that would exist after technology failed. It reminded him of the old ones, the species his clan elders spoke of in cautious tones. The beings who'd mastered forces beyond matter and energy, who'd transcended physical existence. Darkblood clicked nervously. He'd wanted a challenging hunt. It seemed he'd found a world where the very ground could kill him. Relax, Gimli said, misunderstanding the alien's clicking as threat assessment. These elves are snobs, but they're hospitable snobs. Won't murder guests, probably. Legolas shot the dwarf a look. Your grasp of elven culture remains impressive in its ignorance. Aye, and your grasp of dwarf culture? Enough, Aragorn interrupted. The ranger's attention was on Galadriel, who led them deeper into her realm with silent grace. Around them more elves appeared, not threatening but watchful. Their eyes tracked Darkblood with mixture of curiosity and concern. They'd never seen his like, never imagined his like could exist. Lady Galadriel, Gandalf said as they walked, I must speak with you privately. About the ring, about our quest, and about, he gestured at Darkblood, complications that have arisen. The lady nodded gracefully. All will be addressed, but first your company requires rest. You have traveled through darkness carrying terrible burden. Even warriors need respite. They reached a grove where flets, platforms built high in Malorn branches, awaited. But Galadriel raised a hand before anyone could ascend. The stranger will remain groundside, she said, not unkindly but firmly, until we understand what manner of being has entered our realm. Darkblood understood the intent, if not all words. Quarantine, evaluation, standard protocol for unknown entities. His clan did the same with new prey species before deciding hunt eligibility. He clicked agreement, found a comfortable position against a Malorn trunk, and entered the meditation state Yautja used to conserve energy and process experiences. Hours passed. The fellowship rested, 8 elven lembas that restored strength miraculously. They bathed, changed clothes, treated wounds that Gandalf's emergency magic hadn't fully healed. Frodo stood before Galadriel's mirror and saw visions that terrified him. Sam confronted his fears. Aragorn accepted the inevitability of kingship. And in the grove, Darkblood reviewed his hunt. His biomask replayed recordings of every encounter since landing. The spider fight, good technique, proper trophy collection. The observation of the Fellowship, excellent data gathering. The honor bout with Gimli, acceptable outcome, mutual respect established. The troll battle, efficient combination of technology and tactics. But the orc army's appearance troubled him. His sensors had detected coordination beyond natural pack behavior. Someone commanded those forces, someone with resources to field hundreds of warriors, and they'd targeted the Fellowship specifically. Not random patrol, directed assault, which meant the 9 he'd allied with were important enough to warrant such resources. The question was why? The answer lay in that radiation source the smallest one carried. Darkblood's sensors had been analyzing it continuously. The energy signature was unlike anything in his databases, not nuclear, not antimatter, not any power source his people had encountered. And the reality distortion around it, space-time itself seemed to bend toward that artifact. Like gravity, but different. Like it had weight and dimensions his sensors couldn't perceive. A weapon? A power core? Something else entirely? Darkblood's hunter curiosity warred with his survival instinct. Curiosity wanted to investigate, to understand. Survival instinct warned that some things were dangerous specifically because they couldn't be understood. You're pondering what Frodo carries. The Yautja's head snapped toward the voice. Galadriel stood 3 meters away, appearing silently despite his enhanced senses. She moved through her forest like thought through mind, present because she chose to be, absent otherwise. Darkblood's translator caught her words. He clicked affirmative carefully. "It is called the One Ring," Galadriel continued, speaking slowly enough for his AI to parse. "An artifact of terrible power forged by the Dark Lord Sauron to dominate all living things. It calls to power. It corrupts the strong. It destroys the weak." She studied him with eyes older than his species' recorded history. "You are hunter-warrior from beyond the stars. You live by code of honor, yes? Take trophies from worthy prey?" Click, click. "Yes." "Then understand that ring is trophy you cannot take. It would corrupt you, transform your honor into obsession, your hunting code into murderous rampage. You would become everything your people despise." Darkblood's mandibles flexed as his translator processed. He understood. Artifact equals corruption, avoid at all costs. But something in Galadriel's explanation triggered recognition. His people had legends of cursed trophies, remains of prey so dangerous that taking them destroyed hunters. The skull of madness claimed from a psychic entity. The hunter who took it went insane, killed his entire clan. The spine of eternal hunger from a creature that consumed worlds. The hunter who mounted it starved despite eating constantly, his body never satisfied. Cursed trophies avoided by wise hunters, sought by fools. This ring was such a trophy. Darkblood clicked understanding, clicked agreement. He would not pursue that particular prize. Galadriel's expression softened slightly. "You learn quickly, hunter. That speaks well of your survival instinct." She paused. "Gandalf has explained your situation, vessel damaged, waiting for clan retrieval. 8 days, yes?" Click, click. 8 days we may not have," Galadriel said gravely. "The orc army that pursued you was merely vanguard. Sauron's full attention now turns toward Lothlorien. He knows the ring passes through my realm. He will lay siege. She looked toward the forest's edge where even Darkblood sensors could detect massing forces, thousands of thermal signatures gathering. War comes to the Golden Wood. You have choice, Hunter. Remain here and fight alongside us. Or leave now, seek safe haven until your people arrive. Darkblood didn't hesitate. He stood, his full height making even the lady tilt her head back slightly. His wrist blades extended, his mandibles spread in warrior's grin. Click, click, click. The pattern meant I stay, I fight. Because his honor code was clear. He'd allied with the Fellowship. They'd earned his loyalty through combat, and loyalty meant standing beside warriors when war came, not fleeing to safety. Besides, a siege, army warfare, thousands of enemies. His mandibles clicked excitement. This was exactly the kind of massive battle his clan elders spoke of with reverence, the kind that earned legendary status. Galadriel actually smiled. Then you are welcome in Lothlorien, Hunter from beyond stars. Fight with honor, and you will have our friendship. Fight without honor. Her expression hardened, and Darkblood felt actual pressure against his mind. And you will learn why my realm has stood for 3,000 years against the dark. The pressure vanished. Galadriel's smile returned. Come, your Fellowship friends wish to see you. Gimli in particular has been loudly declaring that any realm that separates warriors is foolish. Darkblood followed her through golden trees, processing everything he'd learned. This world was dangerous, not from technology, but from power wielded by beings who'd mastered forces his people barely understood. But it was also honorable. These warriors, human, dwarf, elf, wizard, hobbit, and now Yautja, stood together against overwhelming darkness because standing together was right. His clan would find this world fascinating, might even establish hunting preserves here if the inhabitants agreed to honor protocols. But first he had to survive the coming siege, and judging by his sensors, that survival was far from guaranteed. The War Council convened in Galadriel's hall, a structure that seemed grown rather than built, Malorn wood shaped by ancient magic into cathedral of natural beauty. Present were Galadriel and Celeborn, Lord of Lothlorien, Haldir, the March Warden who commanded the realm's defense, Gandalf, Aragorn, Legolas, and to everyone's surprise, Gimli and Darkblood. The dwarf I understand, Celeborn said, his ancient features showing rare amusement. He fought beside the Fellowship, earned his place through courage. But the hunter? Darkblood, Gimli supplied. Since he can't pronounce his real name, I'm calling him that, on account of his blood being dark and him being bloodthirsty. The Yautja's translator caught enough to understand. He clicked what might have been amusement. The name was acceptable. Darkblood fought beside us against trolls and orc army, Aragorn explained. His weapons are unlike anything I've seen. They could devastate enemy formations if used strategically. But can he be trusted? Celeborn pressed. Can any of us? Gandalf countered. The ring tests everyone, even those not of Middle-earth. But Darkblood has proven his honor. Gimli lives because the hunter chose mercy over trophy. Darkblood clicked agreement. Then, using his wrist display, projected hologram onto the council table. The image showed his biomask's recording of the orc army. Hundreds of enemies, their positions, their weapons, their coordination. Intelligence, Haldir breathed. He's providing battlefield intelligence. More holograms. Thermal maps of Mirkwood's edges showing troop movements. Analysis of orc tactics, weak points in their formations. Your technology sees what our scouts cannot, Celeborn admitted. Very well. The hunter may attend council, but... He fixed Darkblood with a gaze that carried millennia of authority. If you betray us, Hunter, you will learn that elves remember betrayal for eternity. Darkblood clicked understanding. Betrayal meant death. He could work with that. Haldir spread maps across the table, elegant elvish cartography showing Lothlorien's borders. The enemy gathers here, here, and here. He pointed at 3 positions. By my estimate, 5,000 orcs, 300 Uruk-hai, 50 trolls, and something else my scouts report but cannot confirm. What else? Aragorn asked. Siege engines, massive towers that move. Our scouts claim they've never seen such constructions. Darkblood's sensors had caught glimpses of those towers in his surveillance. His mandibles clicked recognition. He pulled up more hologram data showing what his sensors had recorded. The towers were enormous, 30 meters tall, mounted on wheels covered in armor plates, and they moved, not pushed by orcs, but propelled by some internal mechanism. Siege towers with engines, Gandalf said, his expression grave. Saruman's work, no doubt. He's always sought to blend orc brutality with mechanical advantage. Can your realm's defenses hold against such weapons? Aragorn asked Galadriel. The lady's expression was serene but serious. Lothlorien's power is great, but it is power of preservation, not destruction. We can defend, turn back attacks, make enemy forces lose heart and direction. But those towers, they will carry orcs directly to our borders, through all magical defenses. Then we destroy the towers before they reach the border, Boromir said. He'd been quiet until now, studying the maps with Gondorian tactical expertise. Hit them during construction. Commando raid, fast, brutal, gone before they can respond. Too dangerous, Celeborn protested. Those towers are guarded by thousands. Which is why we don't send an army, Aragorn said, his ranger mind seeing the strategy. We send specialists. Small, team, hard targets in and out. I'll go, Boromir volunteered immediately. As will I, Legolas added. And me, Gimli insisted. Someone has to keep the elf from getting killed. All eyes turned to Darkblood. The Yautja studied the holographic towers, his biomass calculating structural weaknesses, guard patterns, optimal approach vectors. Then he clicked enthusiastic agreement and displayed his plasmacaster. The weapon's targeting system showed exactly where to hit the towers for catastrophic failure. Well then, Gandalf said, it seems we have our strike team, but they'll need support. Distraction to draw enemy attention while the team moves. I will lead that distraction, Haldir declared. 200 archers attacking from the forest's edge. The enemy will focus on us while your specialists work. Galadriel studied the plan, her ancient wisdom weighing variables beyond mortal ken. Finally, she nodded. It is dangerous, many will die, but if those towers reach Lothlorien, many more will perish. The plan is sound. When do we strike? Aragorn asked. Tonight, Celeborn decided. The towers are still incomplete. Tomorrow they'll be operational. We have single chance. The council dispersed to prepare. Aragorn, Legolas, Gimli, and Boromir would form the strike team with Darkblood providing range support and tactical data. Haldir's archers would create chaos, and the rest of the Fellowship would remain in Lothlorien protecting Frodo and the Ring. As they prepared, Gandalf pulled Darkblood aside. Hunter, the wizard said quietly, I have seen darkness across Middle-earth. I know its face, its methods, but you... He studied the alien with troubled eyes. You come from beyond our world, beyond our understanding. I must know, will you stand with us when the darkness comes? Or will you hunt your own path? Darkblood understood the question beneath the question. Are you ally or opportunist? The Yautja's answer was to place his clawed hand over his chest, heart center, and tap twice. His people's gesture for bond oath, loyalty unto death. Then he pulled up a holographic image from his biomasks database. It showed a Yautja skull mounted on trophy wall, along with other skulls from various species. But this particular skull had a crack through its forehead, killed in dishonorable combat. And beside it, Yautja script that Darkblood's translator parsed for Gandalf. Hunter who betrays pack dies without honor. Name struck from clan records. Legacy erased. The message was clear. Betrayal among Yautja resulted in worse than death, eternal shame, ancestral dishonor. I see, Gandalf said softly. Your people value loyalty as we value courage. Very well, Hunter. Fight beside us tonight, and may your aim be true. Darkblood clicked agreement. Tonight he would test his skills against organized army, would coordinate with warriors from different species, would prove that Yautja honor transcended worlds. And if he died? He'd die beside warriors he respected. Honorable death was acceptable death. Besides, his clan would find his body in 8 days. They'd review his biomask recordings, see what he'd accomplished, understand why he died, and they'd be proud. That was all any Yautja wanted: pride of clan, honor of hunt, glory of combat. Tonight would provide all three. Midnight approached. 4 warriors and 1 alien hunter moved through Lothlorien's outskirts like shadows with purpose. Aragorn led, his ranger skills reading terrain that changed moment to moment as Galadriel's magic shifted the forest against invaders. Behind him, Boromir, shield strapped tight, sword loose in sheath. Legolas, bow strung, arrows carefully selected for maximum penetration. Gimli, axe freshly sharpened, mail checked thrice. And Darkblood, cloaked and nearly invisible, his plasma caster charged, his wrist blades ready. They could hear the orc army even from a kilometer away. Thousands of crude voices, war drums, the clash of weapons being prepared, and above it all, the grinding sound of siege towers being moved into position. 3 towers. Each one a rolling fortress designed to breach Lothlorien's magical borders through sheer mass and mechanical persistence. Destroy them, and the siege would lose its teeth. Fail, and the golden wood would burn. Positions, Aragorn whispered. They'd rehearsed the plan during the hours before midnight. Haldir's archers would strike from the north, drawing enemy attention. The strike team would approach from the south, hit the tower's structural weak points that Darkblood's sensors had identified, and extract before enemy response could organize. Simple, direct, likely to get them all killed. I've had worse plans, Boromir muttered. Name one, Gimli challenged. There was this time in Minas Tirith involving a goat, 3 barrels of wine, and diplomatic envoy from Harad. Focus, Aragorn hissed, but he was smiling slightly. Humor before battle, sign of warriors comfortable with mortality. Darkblood's biomask tracked Haldir's force moving into position. 200 elven archers, silent as thought, deadly as plague. They would strike first. Wait for it, wait for it. The night exploded with elvish war cries. 200 arrows flew as one, not wild volley, but coordinated precision strike. Every arrow found target: orc throats, troll eyes, siege engine wheels. The orc encampment erupted into chaos. Now, Aragorn commanded. The strike team sprinted from cover. 5 forms moving fast through darkness, their approach covered by the northern battle's noise. The first siege tower loomed before them, 30 meters of wood, iron, and orc engineering. Guards stood watch, 20 orcs, alert, but focused on the northern attack. Darkblood's plasma caster spoke first. 3 bolts, 3 guards down before they could scream warning. Headshots, instant death, professional execution. Legolas's arrows took the next. 4. Different style than the plasma caster, quieter, more intimate, but equally deadly. Gimli and Boromir hit the remaining guards with brutal efficiency. No honor duels now. This was assassination work, fast, silent, necessary. There, Aragorn pointed at support beam Darkblood had identified. Hit it there and the whole structure collapses. Darkblood aimed carefully. His plasma caster's power cell was limited, maybe 20 more shots before depletion. Each one had to count. The bolt struck true. Superheated plasma cut through wooden support like scythe through wheat. The beam shattered and the tower groaned. "Again!" Aragorn shouted as alarms sounded. Orcs were reacting, converging on their position. Another plasma bolt, another support beam destroyed. The tower tilted slowly at first, then faster. 30 meters of siege engine crashed sideways, crushing dozen orcs beneath its mass. The impact shook ground like earthquake. "One down," Gimli roared. "Two to go." But the element of surprise was gone. Hundreds of orcs now charged toward the strike team's position. They had maybe 90 seconds before being overwhelmed. "Move!" Aragorn led them toward the second tower. They sprinted through the orc encampment, fighting running battles with enemies that appeared from everywhere. Boromir's shield blocked crude blades. His sword opened orc throats with Gondorian precision. Legolas's arrows never missed, every shot a kill. Gimli's axe sang death songs in Khuzdul, and Darkblood moved through the chaos like apex predator through feeding ground. His wrist blades carved through orc armor. His strength let him throw enemies into each other. His cloaking device flickered on and off, creating confusion about his actual position. They reached the second tower. More guards, but prepared now. A dozen orcs, 3 Uruk-hai, and a troll whose handler had been killed during the chaos. The troll charged. Legolas's arrow took its eye, but the beast's momentum carried it forward. It would crush Gimli in seconds. Darkblood's plasma caster fired, not at the troll's head, too armored. At its knee, the joint exploded in flash of superheated tissue and shattered bone. The troll collapsed, shrieking. Boromir finished it with sword through throat. "Thank you!" he shouted at Darkblood. The Yautja clicked acknowledgement, already targeting the tower's supports. 2 shots. Both supports shattered. The second tower fell, crashing through orc lines and creating avalanche of casualties. "Two down!" Aragorn yelled. "Yo, last one!" But the orc response had organized. A full battalion, 200 warriors, formed defensive line between strike team and final tower. And behind them, something worse emerged. A Nazgul, one of the 9 called from Minas Morgul to oversee the siege. It rode a fell beast whose wings blotted out stars. Its mere presence created supernatural dread that made even Aragorn's courage waver. "Oh," Boromir breathed. "That's problematic." The Nazgul's scream split the night. Not sound, but pure terror given voice. It hit the strike team like physical force. Boromir staggered. Gimli's axe nearly slipped from trembling hands. Only Legolas and Darkblood seemed unaffected. The elf, because his people had fought the 9 before, knew their tricks. The Yautja, because his species simply didn't experience fear the same way. Terror was data, useful information about threat level. Nothing more. Darkblood's plasma caster targeted the fell beast, but the Nazgul's dark magic deflected the bolt, sending superheated plasma scattering harmlessly into sky. "Magic!" Darkblood's translator synthesizer managed. The word came out mangled, but meaning carried. Technology couldn't harm this enemy. "Then we don't use technology," Aragorn decided. The ranger drew his sword, an ancient blade forged by Númenórean smiths, carrying enchantments from ages past. "We use steel blessed by elven craft." Legolas knocked an arrow whose head glowed faintly. "And elvish bane shots." The Nazgul circled, studying them. Its voice, horrible hollow, spoke in black speech. "Give us the ring-bearer, and you may flee. Resist, and suffer fates worse than death." "How about we give you nothing?" Gimli snarled. "And you bugger off before we show you what free peoples do to slave spirits." The Nazgul's answer was to dive. its fell beast's claws extended, its blade raised. A weapon forged in Mordor's fires, designed to kill living flesh and trap souls. The battle was joined. Legolas's arrows flew. 3 shots, 3 hits on the fell beast's leathery wings. The creature shrieked and veered, but didn't fall. Aragorn's sword met the Nazgul's blade with clash that sent sparks flying. Ancient magic versus dark sorcery. The ranger's skill against centuries of undead combat experience. Boromir threw his shield like discus. It caught the fell beast's head, staggered it, gave Legolas opening for another shot. This one took the creature's left eye. Half-blinded, it thrashed wildly. Gimli did something incredibly brave and incredibly stupid. He charged, straight at the Nazgul, a dwarf versus one of the 9 most feared entities in Middle-earth. His axe, blessed by stone priests of Khazad-dûm, bit into the wraith's leg. Ghostly substance offered little resistance to dwarven steel blessed by earth magic. The Nazgul shrieked, actual pain in its hollow voice, and Darkblood saw his opportunity. The plasma caster couldn't hurt the wraith directly, but the fell beast it rode. That was flesh and blood, magic warped but physical. He aimed for the beast's wing joints, where cartilage met bone, where structure was weakest. Fired. The plasma bolt severed the right wing completely. The fell beast plummeted, crashed through orc lines, threw its rider clear. The Nazgul rose, wreathed in shadow and malice. But now, it was grounded. Now, it could be fought. "Together!" Aragorn commanded. They struck as one. 5 warriors from 3 species united against evil that predated most of their civilizations. Aragorn's sword kept the wraith's blade occupied. Legolas's arrows disrupted its dark magic, forcing it to waste power on defense. Boromir's shield blocked its counterattacks. Gimli's axe bit at its legs, forcing it to focus on multiple threats. And Darkblood's wrist blades, molecular edge weapons designed to cut through xenomorph exoskeletons, found that wraith substance, while ethereal, could be disrupted by precisely applied force. The battle lasted 30 seconds, felt like hours, each moment a struggle between ancient darkness and desperate courage. Then Aragorn's blade found its mark. The Númenórean steel, carrying enchantments from Valinor itself, pierced the Nazgul's heart center. The wraith exploded into shadow and screaming, its essence scattered to the void, recalled to Mordor for reforming, defeated, if not destroyed. The orc battalion, seeing their supernatural commander vanquished, broke and ran. "The third tower!" Aragorn gasped, exhausted but determined. "Now!" They sprinted through retreating orcs. The final siege tower stood unguarded, all defenders having rushed to aid the Nazgul. Darkblood's plasma caster had 3 shots left. He made them count. 3 supports, 3 precise hits. The final tower collapsed. "Fall back!" Aragorn commanded. The strike team turned and ran. Behind them, the orc encampment dissolved into chaos, their siege weapons destroyed, their supernatural commander defeated, their army in disarray. Haldir's archers covered the strike team's retreat, their arrows punishing any orc stupid enough to pursue. They reached Lothlorien's border gasping, bleeding, exhausted, and victorious. Galadriel stood at the forest's edge, her power blazing like sun. Behind her, elvish magic sealed the border, creating barrier that would hold for days. "Welcome back, warriors," she said. "You have bought us time. The siege is broken, at least for now." The strike team collapsed, adrenaline fading, injuries making themselves known. Boromir's shoulder was gashed. Gimli's leg bore troll claw marks. Legolas had burns from near miss with Nazgul magic. And Darkblood's armor showed damage from dozen impacts, his left arm's wrist blade mechanism broken, his plasma caster's power cell depleted. But they'd won. Against impossible odds, they demolished 3 siege towers, defeated a Nazgul, and saved Lothlorien from immediate conquest. "Not bad," Gimli wheezed. "For night's work." "Not bad at all," Aragorn agreed. Darkblood clicked weary agreement. His biomask reviewed combat recordings, analyzing every mistake, every success. His people would study this battle for years, tactical lessons from warfare and magic-rich environment. But more than tactical data, he'd gained something else. Proof that honor transcended species, that warriors could bond across unimaginable differences. That courage and conviction mattered more than origin. His clan would arrive in 7 days. They'd find him allied with natives fighting beside them against darkness. Some clans would call that weakness. His clan? They'd understand. They'd recognize worthy warriors when they saw them, and maybe, just maybe, they'd establish relations with this world. Formal contact. Recognition that Middle-earth held warriors worth knowing. But first, Darkblood needed medical attention. Galadriel's healers approached cautiously, uncertain how to treat alien physiology. The Yautja accessed his suit's medical systems and displayed holographic anatomy charts, showing healers exactly where his injuries were, what needed treatment. Even in pain, he remained professional, warrior to the end. "Rest now," Galadriel said to all of them. "You've earned it. Tomorrow the Fellowship must depart. Your quest cannot be delayed longer. But tonight celebrate survival." As they limped into Lothlorien's heart, Frodo approached Darkblood hesitantly. "Thank you," the hobbit said simply, "for protecting my friends, for fighting beside them." Darkblood looked down at the small one, the ring-bearer, the one carrying burden that would have broken most warriors. He clicked gentle acknowledgement, then did something that surprised everyone. Knelt, bringing himself to Frodo's eye level, and placed a clawed hand over his heart. Respect to the smallest warrior carrying the greatest burden, who faced darkness with nothing but courage. Frodo understood. He smiled, returned the gesture, and in golden Lothlorien, under stars that had watched ages rise and fall, warriors from across reality honored each other. Tomorrow would bring new battles, new challenges. The Fellowship would leave, heading toward Mordor and destiny. But tonight they'd proven that courage and honor could bridge any gap, even the gap between worlds. Dawn came to Lothlorien with golden light that made the realm look like vision from dreams. The Fellowship prepared to depart, their quest resuming after brief but crucial respite. Boats awaited at the Silverlode River, elegant elvish craft that would carry them toward Mordor's approach. Supplies had been gathered, weapons repaired, wounds tended. Darkblood stood apart from the preparations, his biomask reviewing the past day's events. His clan's retrieval beacon would arrive in 6 days. He should remain in Lothlorien, wait safely for pickup. But his sensors tracked the Fellowship's preparations, and his honor code whispered insistently. They'd fought beside him, earned his loyalty. Now they journeyed into darkness that would likely kill them. Warriors didn't abandon pack, even temporary pack, even when staying would be safer. "You're thinking about coming with us," Gandalf said, appearing beside the Yautja with wizard sudden materialization. "I can see it in your body language. You want to continue alongside the Fellowship." Darkblood clicked affirmative, then questioning. His translator managed, "Quest? Dangerous?" "Unimaginably dangerous," Gandalf confirmed. "We journey to Mount Doom, into Sauron's heartland, to destroy the ring. The chances of survival are," he paused, "essentially non-existent." The Yautja's mandibles spread. "Perfect. The most dangerous hunt imaginable." "But," Gandalf continued, "your people arrive in 6 days. If you come with us, you may miss retrieval. Be stranded on Middle-earth indefinitely." Darkblood considered. Missing clan pickup meant years, possibly decades before another retrieval mission. But his honor code was absolute. Loyalty to pack superseded personal convenience. He made his choice. Click determination. His clan would understand he'd made similar decisions before, extending hunts for honor reasons. His biomask's recordings would show why. "Then you are welcome," Gandalf said, smiling. "Though I warn you, the boats weren't built for someone your size." The Fellowship gathered at the river's edge. Galadriel and Celeborn came to bid farewell, their ageless faces showing both hope and sorrow. "The last time I saw such courage," Celeborn said, "was when the alliance of elves and men marched against Sauron in the Second Age. You carry that same determination." Galadriel approached each Fellowship member, giving gifts. To Frodo, a crystalline phial containing Arundel's light. To Sam, elvish rope and earth from her garden. To others, items chosen specifically for their needs. When she reached Darkblood, she paused. "I cannot gift you elvish craft. Your technology far exceeds our metalworking. But I offer something else." She sang words in Quenya, ancient High Elvish. Her power settled over Darkblood like warm blanket. The Yautja felt it immediately. His injuries, still healing, accelerated their recovery. His armor's self-repair system suddenly worked more efficiently. Even his broken wrist blade mechanism sparked to life. "Magic and technology," Galadriel explained, "need not oppose each other. My blessing helps your craft function as intended. Consider it payment for defending my realm." Darkblood clicked profound gratitude, bowed as his people did before clan matriarchs. Deep respect. "And one more thing," Galadriel said quietly, for his sensors only. "When your clan arrives, tell them what you found here. Tell them Middle-earth remembers those who fight with honor. If your people wish formal contact, they will be received with dignity. First contact protocol, recognition between civilizations." Darkblood's heart analog thrummed with pride. His actions had opened diplomatic channels. His clan elders would be pleased. The boats launched, 9 Fellowship members plus 1 alien hunter heading south toward darkness and destiny. As they traveled, Legolas taught Darkblood elvish river songs. Gimli shared dwarf battle tales. Aragorn discussed tactics. The hobbits tried teaching him their language, mostly unsuccessfully, but appreciation was mutual. They were packed now, truly, bound by combat, sealed by respect, united against evil. 3 days of river travel brought them to Amon Hen, where the Fellowship would fracture, where Boromir would fall, where everything would change. But that's another story. For now, on those 3 days of peaceful travel, warriors from across reality simply enjoyed each other's company. Gimli challenged Darkblood to arm wrestling, lost spectacularly, laughed the entire time. Legolas demonstrated elvish archery while Darkblood showed plasma caster precision, respectful tie. Aragorn and the Yautja discussed honor codes, finding surprising parallels between Ranger tradition and Yautja philosophy. Even Gandalf seemed at peace, smoking his pipe and appreciating the impossible, an alien hunter integrated seamlessly into ancient quest. "You know," Sam said one evening as they made camp, "when we started this journey, I never imagined we'd pick up a hunter from beyond the stars." "Life rarely matches expectations," Gandalf replied, smoke rings drifting into twilight. "But sometimes what we find exceeds what we imagined." Darkblood clicked agreement. He'd come to Middle-earth by accident, seeking simple hunt. Instead, he'd found worthy warriors, honorable combat, and purpose beyond trophy collection. His clan would arrive in 3 days. They'd find his beacon. See, he'd join native warriors on impossible quest. And they'd understand, because that's what Yautja did. They hunted, yes. But they also recognized honor in others, respected courage, valued loyalty. 3 days hence, his people would descend in their ship, offer extraction, and Darkblood would face a choice: return to familiar stars, or continue alongside warriors who'd become something more than temporary allies. But for now, under Middle-earth stars beside a campfire shared with Fellowship of Nine, an alien hunter from distant worlds felt something he'd rarely experienced. Home. Not home as place. Home as belonging. Home as purpose fulfilled through honorable action. And as the fire crackled and warriors told tales of their peoples, Darkblood clicked a rhythm his translator couldn't quite capture. A Yautja prayer thanking whatever cosmic force had crashed his ship in this particular forest, bringing him to these particular warriors. Sometimes the best hunts weren't about killing prey. Sometimes the best hunts were about finding your pack. 3 days later, the Yautja ship descended through Middle-earth's atmosphere with technology that made even Gandalf's magic seem quaint. A vessel designed for interstellar travel carrying Darkblood's clan brothers arrived precisely where his beacon called. The Fellowship stood at a distance, weapons ready but not raised. They'd grown comfortable with Darkblood, but a ship full of hunters was a different proposition. The vessel landed. The hatch opened. 6 Yautja emerged, larger than Darkblood, older, elite hunters whose trophies spoke of centuries of successful hunts. Their leader's mask bore clan leader markings. Darkblood approached alone, his posture showing respect but not submission. The reunion of clan members was ritual, sacred. The Fellowship understood, kept distance. The clan leader studied Darkblood, saw his damaged armor, saw his integrated fighting alongside natives, and demanded report through clicking, chittering Yautja battle cant. Darkblood's biomass transferred data, recordings of every encounter. Spider hunts, honor bout with Gimli, alliance with Fellowship, siege tower destruction, Nazgul defeat. The clan leader reviewed everything in seconds. Yautja neural processing was phenomenal. Then he did something that made Darkblood's heart swell with pride. He placed his clawed hand over Darkblood's heart and clicked the pattern for honor recognized, clan stands proud. But then came the question Darkblood had anticipated. Would he return? Resume his place among the clan? Or continue with these natives on their suicide quest? Darkblood looked back at the Fellowship, at Gimli grinning despite nervousness, at Aragorn standing ready to defend or diplomat as needed, at Gandalf smoking his pipe with perfect calm, at the hobbits huddled together brave despite fear, at warriors who'd become more than allies, who'd become pack brothers. His answer came not in words but in action. He gestured for his clan leader to follow, approached the Fellowship, and carefully, formally introduced them. Through his translator and gesture, he conveyed, "These warriors honor-bound. Quest sacred, I continue beside them until completion or death." The clan leader studied the Fellowship, saw their determination, recognized warrior hearts regardless of species, and nodded slowly. Then he did something unprecedented in recent Yautja history. He offered the Fellowship an honor usually reserved for other hunter races. He opened his clan's ship and retrieved weapons. Not Yautja weapons. Those were earned, not given, but captured armaments from dozens of worlds kept as backup arsenal. Energy shields that could stop sword strikes, medical kits that worked on carbon-based life, rations that provided weeks' worth of nutrition, and one special item, a communication beacon that would let Darkblood signal his ship if extraction became necessary. Gift, Darkblood's translator managed, Clan Honors Fellowship, equips allied warriors. Aragorn understood the significance. This was recognition between powers, formal acknowledgement that Fellowship carried weight beyond their world. "We accept with gratitude," the ranger said carefully, "and offer friendship between peoples in return." The clan leader clicked acknowledgement. Then, surprising everyone, he approached Gimli. The dwarf tensed but held his ground as the massive hunter examined him. Then the clan leader laughed, clicking, chittering, Yautja laughter, and clapped Gimli's shoulder with enough force to stagger him. Through Darkblood's translator, "Small warrior, mighty heart, good fight, good honor." Gimli blinked, then grinned hugely. "Aye, well, you lot aren't so bad yourselves. For giant hunter demons from beyond the stars." The clan prepared to depart. But before leaving, the leader turned to Darkblood one final time. Spoke in battle cant that only Darkblood's translator caught. "Return alive if possible. Return with honor, absolutely. Clan remembers your choice. When your quest completes, signal, we retrieve. Until then." He paused. "Hunt well, pack brother." The ship lifted off, disappearing into clouds and beyond. Leaving Darkblood with the Fellowship, his choice made, his path clear. "Well," Gandalf said into the resulting silence, "that was remarkably civilized for first contact between species." "Your people," Aragorn said to Darkblood. "They're willing to let you risk your life for our quest. That's impressive trust." Darkblood clicked correction, not trust, understanding. His clan understood honor demanded completion, would welcome him back whenever he returned. Years, decades, didn't matter. Yautja measured time differently than short-lived species. What mattered was he'd made choice that honored both clan and pack, had balanced loyalties perfectly. "Come on then," Gimli said, hefting the alien energy shield they'd been gifted. "We've got a ring to destroy and a Dark Lord to defy. No sense standing around." The Fellowship resumed their journey. 9 warriors from Middle-earth and 1 hunter from the stars, heading toward Mordor and final confrontation with evil. Behind them, Lothlorien's golden light faded into distance. Ahead, darkness gathered, Sauron's power sensing the ring's approach, mustering armies, preparing defenses. The road would be long, the battles fierce, the losses heavy, but they would walk it together. Fellowship complete, bound by combat and sealed by honor that transcended worlds. And somewhere in the vastness of space, a Yautja clan remembered the warriors of Middle-earth who'd earned their respect, who'd proven that courage and honor were universal languages, who'd shown that the best hunts ended not in death, but in brotherhood.